We have got such a distinguished lineup on our panel, we thought we'd give you the opportunity to give them some hard questions. So don't hold back and make sure that they are relevant to what we're trying to achieve here in the Leeds City region. My name is Nigel Foster. I'm a director of ARUP and I'm also chair of the Property Forum in Leeds. And this session is about delivering the infrastructure needed for growth across the city region, which will be vital to boost economic performance, facilitate sustainable development and create jobs, and to help rebalance the economy, all of which we've heard about this morning, but here in the city region, we know how vital it is for the people and businesses that are located here. So why infrastructure? Well, those of you who are up to speed with news will have heard about the latest Obama fiscal stimulus to drive job creation in the United States. But there's also been published this morning a major business survey by KPMG and the CBI which emphasizes the importance of good infrastructure for business success, for business competitiveness, and for business growth. Well, last year I was a member of the British Chambers of Commerce Commission on Infrastructure, and one of the key findings was the importance of investment in infrastructure to deliver economic growth and maintain our international competitiveness. Unfortunately, and I hope the Minister is still here, unfortunately, governments, but of all persuasions, have generally failed to deliver the level of investment needed to support a sustainable and high-performing economy. Indeed, in comparison to countries such as France, Germany, and the United States, our level of investment in infrastructure is poor. While recognizing the fiscal challenges we all face, I believe that investment in infrastructure will help boost short-term economic activity as well as supporting long-term sustainable growth. I also do not think that this will risk credibility with the financial markets, which are as concerned as much about growth as they are about public expenditure. Indeed, I think they would regard it as a sensible long-term investment. So, I think that the most important actions for the LEP are to set out the infrastructure plan for the Leeds City region that supports sustainable economic development, both in the short and long terms. To prioritise those investments that will deliver the biggest impacts and deliver these as quickly as possible. And to do this through public and private sector partnership with proactive and creative financing. And these are all items that the panel, I believe, are experienced in and will talk about with you today. So, without further ado, let us move to the panel and let's see how they can help us unpick some of these particularly important issues to deliver the objectives for the Leeds City region. First of all, can I go to Sue Ansborough, Director of White Young Green. Sue's been involved in planning across the city region for a long time. Sue, for you, what are the key challenges in the planning system in supporting the strategic objectives of the LEP?
Well, thank you, Nigel. We've already touched upon this morning some of those challenges I think that the planning system presents us with. And it's very clearly at the moment a key moment in time in that we have the Localism Bill, the emerging National Planning Policy Framework, all set against the Plan for Growth. And if the LEP is to be successful and improve the overall attractiveness of the city region, then its fundamental objectives must be able to be delivered through the statutory development process, ensuring that the LEP priorities are reflected in these planning objectives presents us with some key challenges, there's no doubt. First of which, quite clearly, is the LEP doesn't have any statutory role to set out a spatial plan for the city region. Each of the districts are at their various stages in their own development plan development, and they're not necessarily aligned with one another at the moment. And most importantly, I think, and again we've touched upon this morning, individual authorities' political aspirations need to be consolidated in such a way that they reflect these priorities. The Emerging Localism Bill does have within it the duty to cooperate, which we've talked about, which will require cross-boundary issues to be genuinely dealt with in this emerging spatial plans. Interestingly, the emerging draft National Planning Policy Framework doesn't actually mention the role of planning at the city region. Is this an oversight? Or is it because it doesn't sit comfortably with the localism agenda? And I think that's a key issue that one or two of the councillors have spoken about today. We know that within the Leeds City region, the population growth is going to be dramatic, yet the emerging core strategies and the frameworks that go with them are not yet geared up to deliver upon this, partly because the local political changes are as significant as they are, I think. And how will the city region perform and compete successfully unless that particular issue can be addressed? What we need is a spatial plan and a strategic investment plan that are clearly coordinated with a limited set of very clear priorities for investment in the future. And most importantly, that will demonstrate that housing and economic growth will be encouraged and that private sectors will therefore have the confidence to invest in the city region. Too often, planning applications for new homes or employment falter because of the lack of basic infrastructure and a confidence in how to deliver it. So to me, the key challenges for the LEP are to enable the infrastructure priorities to be promoted and delivered through the planning system, to ensure that the districts can respond positively through a mature debate on the matter, to inject a confidence that these strategic priorities will be dealt with and not stifled by local political argument, and to encourage a simplicity of thinking. And perhaps finally, I'll just leave a thought, a little tongue-in-cheek, but a debate that's been going on in this city for some time, about whether or not we should consider downgrading the weight of the individual district development plans and replace these with a city region strategic plan. Because if we really mean business, perhaps that's what we should be doing, and not an easy political issue to deliver upon that, but something I think we should all give some further thought to.
Great, that's great, Sue. I mean, what we're trying to do here with the panel is set out for you some thought-provoking points, and we really want you then to come back and drill down into some of those with your questions. David, normally people come to see you. This is David Curtis, a director of the Homes and Communities Agency, but also on the joint board for housing and regeneration on the Leeds City region. And normally, David, people come to you with a bit of a begging bowl. Well, now you've got a lot of assets. You're going to get some more assets from Yorkshire Forward. How best can you help with those assets to deliver the housing and regeneration plans for the city region?
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Well, I think I'd just like to start off by saying I think, and I hope we'd all agree, that a well-balanced housing offer and successful places are absolutely crucial to economic growth. I would hope we all agree that that's a given. It's not always a given, because often government is focused on economy, and we need to be very clear that good places, successful places, the successful regeneration places of the last 20 years, both in the Europe and in this country, have all strengthened their economy by also improving their places. And you can all think of examples, and I won't go through them today. But of course, to do that, the market can't do it alone. And we recognise that in our area, we have a particular challenge because we have some very difficult market conditions, even in the good times, even in the boom times, never mind our difficult economic position at the moment. But obviously, in a restricted period of limited resources, that's not easy to do. And just to give context, you know, Neil said it's a £52 billion economy, Leeds City region. On average, I can invest on behalf of government with partners about 20 million a year. That gives it context. And the assets that we've inherited from previous organisations, English partnerships, etc., but also now the Regional Development Agency, Yorkshire Forward, together come to no more than a market value of probably around about 50 million. But they're important because they're important that if you put them together with other sources of fund, you can actually develop a cocktail of investment. And I think that's a word you'll hear me speaking all the time now. Every time I talk now, it's about investment. It's not about grant, because grant has gone really as a significant contributor to economic growth in the regions. Now, there are still some resources, limited resources, and those, the 20 million I mentioned, is where that money comes from. But more importantly, we have new income streams that we need to somehow coordinate cleverly, both between the authorities and with the private sector. And just to give a few of those examples, and they've been touched on by several speakers already, we obviously have the land assets I just referred to, the land of the HCA, the land of the RDAs coming to us on the 19th September, a plug there for transfer date. So don't ask me to talk to you about that transfer land until after the 19th. I know you'll all be ringing to me on the 19th and asking to come and talk to me. But also the local authorities themselves have significant land holdings, and already authorities are using that land in a creative way, jointly with ourselves and the private sector. There's also land from the government departments. The government has set out a clear agenda of releasing development land into the marketplace in a coordinated, sensible way, because no one in the current market would want to release that land, in a big splurge, because actually that would be counterproductive. But we've also got other resources. We've heard about the enterprise zone. We've heard about the Regional Growth Fund. We've also heard already people have mentioned the New Homes Bonus. We've also got the Community Infrastructure Levy. What's important about all those is then there's a new approach to those. It's no longer an allocation-based system. Resources are now competitive. You have to bid for those resources, or you have to do something to generate those resources. So if you want to get the maximum benefit out of New Homes Bonus, you have to, as a local authority, be prepared to give planning consents and to give those consents within a clear and very coherent strategic context. There's also things like tax incremental finance, which are not on the statute books yet, but could be as a very significant contributor to resources available, particularly in maybe our city centres, which struggle with say, the enterprise zone approach, but actually TIF may be a better solution for city centres. And the one thing I would say about all those resources is the very clear message as to how you get maximum benefit from them all is clearly partnership. Partnership between a local authority, between government agencies and the private sector, because at the end of the day, the private sector has a much more money to contribute than the public sector has in the current climate, but also partnership across boundaries. And I think I just want to sort of leave with a thought for the city region. To what extent is the city region prepared to look at those opportunities collectively across boundaries? So, for example, it may be very difficult, in fact it will be very difficult, I know, as a former Chief Planning Officer, but can we think about the New Homes Bonus across the city region, not just by individual authorities? Can we think about Community Infrastructure Levy to provide some of the key strategic investments we need, not just look at it individually? We've already heard how the enterprise zone allows us to do that with the benefits of the enterprise zone. And I would ask the question of all of us, really, are we up for thinking even more creatively and strategically against agreed city region strategic priorities and how we can maximise the benefit of those new resources, new programmes, for the collective good of the whole city region?